What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's episode of Walking 90. I'm your host, as always, Elliot Barr. And is joining me is a guy from one of the legend. Is it cool to call Greenville a legendary club at this point? But you guys got a couple of titles.
I think in League One history, it's fair to say, like,
Okay.
definitely up there in what I would call, at least for League One standards, big clubs. So
Okay. One of the big clubs in USL League One. Mr. Michael of Greenville Goals on Instagram. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing? It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I can't complain. I've been following your work. We were talking beforehand that you started around in 2022, and I've been following just some of your work behind there. That even so much, I've tried to implement some of that to our Instagram page because your graphics are really great.
Appreciate
But
that.
yeah, we really brought you on to talk about Greenville, what's going on this season, and everything like that in between. So yeah, that's what we got you on for tonight.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk about the Triumph. I mean, it's one of my obsessions. So always happy to have a conversation about the team and how things are going. So
Right. So as listeners, as you're listening tonight or watching on YouTube, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Once again, our goal is to try to get to 150 before the Henry Derby in Madison. So help us hit that goal. But Michael, a quick recap of Greenville's season. Unfortunately, the club is out of the U.S. Open Cup due to a loss to One Knox. Team sixth place right now in the league on 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses. And you have an upcoming Jägermeister game. I forgot the opponent, but I'll know it when we get to that segment. But for you, man, being there, let me ask you this. One, what is the trajectory of this team? And how are you guys still doing this with 3 guys that were on the original roster? Well, 2, but 1 was there in 2020. You guys want to tell you?
It's not been the best start. But you kind of have, it kind of depends on the lens you view it through. Because some of the results are not great. You know, Spokane beat us badly at home and lost to One Knox. You know, back-to-back Wednesday nights at home, but mixed in, the wins are good. So I think I think our fans are probably feeling a little bit better than they otherwise would. Mollywopped Omaha at home, something that I think you can ask any Triumph fan or anybody in the riot had been years in the making. Like, we hadn't actually had a big win against them. Beat Charlotte at home. Even though it was USL2, even though it was a lower league opposition, we didn't play well that night. We had a penalty shootout win in the Open Cup, which was exciting. So it's not been the greatest start in the world. There's some holes, some things to work on, some things that need to be fixed. But I think the wins and a couple of the more positive results are probably making us feel a little bit better than we otherwise would.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like this is a fair question to ask. Look, what is the overall vibe of the team? How do fans feel about the team? Like, does it feel as if like this could be like a swan song year because you do have so many guys that's been there from the creation that are now getting older, and it's kind of like, I guess the best way I'm asking is like, how do fans feel about this team? Like, how do they rate them?
Me personally, I do feel like I feel like we are in a bit of a transitional period.
Mm-hmm.
Transitioning from Harks to Rick. Last year, there was obviously going to be some growing pains, and with some of the older guys in the squad too that have been there for as long as they have. It's definitely feels like it's maybe not the most talented team we've ever had, maybe not the best team we've ever had. There's some sort of transitional space there, but it's still a good squad. They've shown they can grind out results and get the important wins where we need them. So maybe just waiting on some chemistry to gel. I thought the offseason signings were really good. I mean, you've got 3 of the best attacking players in League One history on your team now. I mean, once the chemistry figures itself out, I think the team will pull a lot better results and be a little more consistent. But it definitely feels a bit transitional right now. We're still trying to kind of figure out our identity, figure out what we are.
Okay. So let me ask you this. I mean, we'll come back to tactics and everything like that, but I want to ask you this: like, how did you obviously get started? How did you become a Greenville fan, and how did you come up with the idea of making Greenville Goals on Instagram?
So I'm from the upstate, born and raised in Greenville and Spartanburg. Lived there for 24, 25 years. Obviously we didn't have the Triumph growing up, so my attachments to the game were overseas, and the team came in 2019 while I was in school, and being in college, in the Charlotte area, almost 2 hours away, I didn't have the chance to get to as many games as I did, or as I would have liked to when I was in school. But finally had a chance to come back and see a match in 2022, and I was addicted from the first minute, and have barely missed a beat since.
Word. Yeah, that's cool to hear, man. Like, so, I mean, you've been there, like you said, 2022. Do you have a favorite game or moment that sticks out to you?
Oh, that's a tough one. But like I said, Mollywop in Omaha at home this year was a lot of fun. Like like I said, he talked to people on the ride, and that one felt a long time coming. We've had some good away days, some good wins on the road. The very first game I was at was against Charlotte FC in the Open Cup, which is the biggest crowd the Triumph ever had, and Jake Keegan scored a bit of a worldie in that game. And I've had a lot of good moments, a lot of good memories, and met some amazing people, and met some amazing people through it, and wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, the Riot is like one of the special supporter groups in League One. I'm up here in Richmond. I always wanted to go to a game down there in Greenville, hang out with them, and see how like their supporter group is, because I feel like every supporters group does like something unique or different at a tailgate or either in the stands. Like for you, like what makes the Reedy River Riot so unique and special than other supporter groups?
It's just fun to be a part of. Like I said, I've grown up in the upstate. I've lived here my entire life, and growing up we didn't have a team, didn't have anything like that we could attach to. Like I remember we went to this is a really fun memory. We went to Bantams in the Open Cup in Columbia last season in the first round of the Open Cup, and I kind of made a joke at the people in the stands rooting for Bantams. I was like, we are your local club, because I didn't have the local club for me growing up was Charleston Battery, maybe 3 or 4 hours away. I didn't really have that attachment. So for me, it's about that community. It's something local. It's something that I can claim as mine, and we can claim as ours, that I never had growing up. I'm big into soccer culture and football culture in general, and I always see folks on Twitter overseas are like, you need to support your local club. You need to support your local club. Well, I have teams overseas that I enjoy watching, and in Evertonian, but like I love having a local club. I love having something that I can attach to like that, and I think a lot of folks in the Riot would feel the same way. Yeah,
it's one thing to watch soccer on TV, but we can make a 20 to 30-minute drive to go see a local team at a professional
experience
level.
It in person, right?
Yeah, it's pretty dope. It's pretty dope.
Limbs look cool on TV and look cool in videos, but it's even cooler when you get to do it in person. So,
right. So let's talk about the guy that leads your team, Coach Rick. Like, can you explain, or best of your ability, how does Rick like to play? Because the old verbiage that always been used by Greenville is they like to counter. If they get a 1-0 lead, they will sit in a low, tight block and defend and make a game slow and boring. Is that how it really is? Like, is that how Coach Rick is, or is
I'm not as well versed. I'm not as well versed in tactics as maybe some other folks are, but it's definitely a contrast compared to what Harks was throwing out there. With Harks, it was very much low block, throw everybody behind the ball. I always kind of made the joke of, you don't need the ball to win, 30% possession or whatever. Just win it back, beat them down the other end of the pitch. But, Rick's team seemed to like to play with the ball a little bit more, maybe a little bit more attack minded. I don't think you would have seen guys like Leo Castro or Siobhan Marsh or any of those guys play in a Harks team, because it just doesn't play to their style.
Yeah. So we'll probably pulling away from tactics. I want to ask you this: like, the start to the season might not have been the best, and I actually found it surprising. You guys haven't been on the road yet. Like, I think your furthest trip is maybe like 30 minutes or something like
Asheville,
that.
Literally less than an hour. Yeah,
you guys haven't left the Carolinas.
Yeah,
like, how has this home start gone the way how you would have expected it to, or is it right about where you expected this team to be?
There's a lot of new faces in the team this year, so it's hard to say it's where I expect it to be. Like I've mentioned, the wins are good. Could be better. Having 5 home games to open the season, you would have maybe expected a better start. But beating a couple of the teams that we've had, I think that could roll over well once we get on the road, and hopefully it'll lead to some good results. And crashing out to Knoxville in the Open Cup was not a good result, and we kind of had maybe the worst 100 minutes of Triumph soccer ever between the Spokane game and the start of the Knoxville game. And I'd be happy never seeing Mark Doyle ever again because that guy was absolutely killed us for 2 games. Absolutely brutal. But of our losses to start the season, I mean, I guess 2 of them are to the same team. So, hopefully we won't put too much stock in it. And like I said, build some consistency with some of these new guys and get some of these new guys in the team and give them a run out in full games and that kind of thing, full minutes. And hopefully we'll be better off. I don't see any reason this team shouldn't be, competing in the playoff places.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's talk about this US Open Cup game. Like, what was that experience like seeing? I mean, it's always tough to go out in an Open Cup game at home. I had personal experience in that this year. Like, how was it just overall the game itself? Like, how was it seeing that in person? Because it felt like Greenville was poised up to go in this big run because it just came off of this 4-0 spanking of Union Omaha.
It was an extremely frustrating game if you're a Greenville fan because got off to such an awful start. The second Knoxville goal was just a comedy of errors, a bad pass, and that they're beating us down the pitch, and all of a sudden you look up and the only 2 people, the only person between the goal is our defensive midfielder. Like, how in the world he ended up there, and our center backs are way up the pitch. I have no idea how that happened. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch it because it's just it's a comedy of errors. Got off to such a horrible start, but actually played really well in the second half. Had a goal that may or may not have been offside called back, and had another one off the post, and then got caught out, chasing the game and gave up a third late. Even though we got off to such an awful start, it felt like a winnable game, and maybe a couple more breaks and we could have won. It always sucks to crash out of the Open Cup, but I think and I talked to a couple people afterwards, is going from as bad as Spokane was into that second half against Knoxville, you left feeling a little bit more positive than maybe you could have otherwise been, if you just look at it as a 3-1 defeat.
Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, on the show, and I'm probably you've seen the clubs, we were a little bit concerned about Greenville, just of how the results were going. It just felt as if, like, maybe it's easy to use Father Time, like, had Father Time caught up with the team, or was it just Greenville at a certain level where they're not going to get back to those heights that we saw them at? That was kind of the concern that some people have. Do you think that's fair for people to have, or do you think it's not as bad as what it seems?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I don't think it's as bad as what it seems, but I think it's okay to. I guess I kind of call it out. We've got some older guys in the squad. We're not, and that's the biggest. I don't like to call anybody out individually, so I'm not going to call anybody out individually, but like that was the biggest thing at the end of the Harks era was. It seemed like League One had sort of caught up with us a little bit. League One had kind of transitioned into, this faster paced league, and you have the Triumph over here with this big trudging kind of old squad. And we're still kind of weeding, not necessarily weeding some of those guys out, but some of those guys are kind of leaving the squad and we're getting younger and, trying to reinvent ourselves a little bit. And that maybe is why we've seen, and at least in my opinion, is why we've seen a little bit of a drop from competing from first and second to maybe finishing 4th or 5th the last couple of years. I think it's just that transitional period, but I don't think it's cause for huge concern. The second half of the Knoxville game was good. The response against Charlotte was good. So go back and take care of Chattanooga next weekend, hopefully.
Yeah, Chattanooga's a weird squad, but yeah, like there have been some positive results. The game against Charlotte, for instance, I mean, you guys got it late. Lee Castro, had it.
I'd be willing to bet. I'd be willing to bet. I haven't seen the exact numbers, but I'd be willing to bet our XG was higher than Knoxville in that Open Cup game because the second half was really, really a really, really good performance, but you're chasing the game, you're 2 goals down. So, like, where do you draw the line?
Talking about this year so far, like you said, Greenville was trying to get younger and whatnot. Were there any moves in this offseason that you were really like, okay, I can see the direction of what this team is trying to go into this year?
I love the addition of Siobhan Marsh and Roy Papa from Chattanooga. You have to replace a guy like Lion McKinnon last year who set the league on fire and is playing in championship, and it's big shoes to fill to have to replace the leading scorer in the history of the club and the single season goal leader in the history of the club. But so what better way to do that than taking Chattanooga's 2 best players? 2 guys that are proven in the league, 2 guys that have banged in the goals in the league the last couple of years. I love those additions, and it's been maybe a little bit slow getting those guys in the first couple of games, for whatever reason, but it started to bear fruit, I think, a little bit in the last couple games. Siobhan had a really, really good game against Charlotte, even though he was hooked early. I'm really excited to see those guys, continue to build chemistry with the rest of the team and really push on. Because you have, between those two guys and Leo Castro, I mean, you legitimately have three of the best attacking options in League One history. I mean, there should be no shortage of goals in the squad once they figure some things out.
Okay. Man, you brought back a name, Liam McKinnon. Like, 2024 was a very, very great year for you. I think he got a golden boot in there, some very notable goals. What made him so special as a striker for y'all, man? Like you said, he's the leading, goal scorer in club history.
He was just a different level of dynamic that I don't think the Triumph have ever had. And that kind of goes back to the Harks era a little bit, which maybe didn't allow attacking players to kind of shine the way Liam did, because Liam, could play the ball on the one foot or the other and just take over a game by himself. The team played a little bit more in possession last season than we had under Harks, and gave some of those attacking players more freedom. And Liam just took off. He was a different player, going from the last season under Harks to the first season under Rick, and obviously paid dividends. He got an ink the deal to play in USL Championship. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that he was gone, I was like, yes. And then I saw y'all got Robert missing, and I was like, okay, like this isn't fair. Because you could tell, like, Robert was a good player on a slightly bad Chattanooga team, and for him to go to a stable organization, it was like, okay.
So it was like, yeah, you're taking a guy who scored a lot of goals on a bad team. Okay, now you're putting that guy in a good team. It was like, okay, we might be onto something here.
Yeah. Like you said, like that transition of being like probably a defensive first team to now being a little bit more possession heavy. Like, you got Rafa, you got Evan Lee playing center mid, but I feel like the real gem in the team is Sebastian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how, and this is also like a local guy. I didn't know that at the time, but like how cool has it been for him to come back to the club and that connection he has with the Greenville community and everything?
Oh man, Sebastian's awesome. He's such a fan favorite, and we've had a lot of popular guys here, a lot of guys you call fan favorites here, but I don't think anybody in the 7-year history of the club has been a fan favorite quite like Sebastian. He obviously grew up here and played high school ball here and came up to this area, so he's talked about it on his social and in person before, just being able to come back and play for the team that represents his hometown and score for the team that represents his hometown. You can tell when you talk to him and the way he carries himself, just how special it is. It's really, really special for everybody to have a connection like that. Cause I've talked about it a little bit in the past. Like Sebastian grew up and it was the same as a lot of us. We didn't have what we consider a local team. Like, the closest thing that we would have is a Charleston Battery is DC United 7 hours away. Yeah. So now having a guy who came up locally and having, it's a full circle moment, playing professionally all over the world and coming back to his hometown. It's just really, really cool to be even a small part of it and get to experience it and see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is really cool. It's always Richmond fans are kind of going there now where you have like local people playing for your club, so like they know the ins and out of your city. Like, it's that special connection. I definitely feel that with Sebastian there. But like, the cool thing I found about Greenville is that you guys have been able to have like a legendary trio. Like, how special is that bond between Brandon, Tyler, and Evan being there through everything, really, man?
It's cool. Like I said, I'm a big stats guy, and I've spent some time. I've kind of compared it to maybe teams overseas. I'm like, okay, man, who's the Liverpool of League One? Who's the Everton of League One? Like, maybe some of these like historical connections. And I love seeing that the Triumph are building a history. Like, you look up and in 10 years and be like, who's got the most appearances in League One history? And like, oh man, Evan Lee's played almost 200 games for the Triumph. I mean, that's just incredible. It's like, I'm a stats guy. I love things like that. And it even goes into, I'm a jersey collector. I love, kits and stuff like that. And I posted a picture the other day. I got a couple of kits done with some name sets on the back. And I always try to get players that are kind of random, because I like to look up in 10 years and be like, hey, do you remember that guy played for the Triumph? Hey, you remember that guy played for the Triumph? But because it's on the same wavelength as like an Evan Lee or a Tyler Polak. It's like, man, those guys have represented us for so long.
Yeah,
we're going on almost a decade here. It's hard to believe those guys have played here for almost 10 years. Year 7 now. It's unbelievable. It's really, really cool to have that.
Yeah, no, that is pretty dope. So I'm gonna ask you about all three. Like, Brandon Fricke, he's been this ever constant center back. Like, what makes him so special as a center back out there?
He's just a rock. He's Mr. Consistent. He doesn't seems like he never puts a foot wrong. He's never out of the team. It never seems like he's hurt. Just Mr. Consistent, and I feel like every team kind of needs a bit of a hard man like that.
Is he the true captain of the team? Like, is he the club captain for life? As Harks behind you.
That's a tough one because I feel like you could say club captain, but man, Evan Lee is our heartbeat. Evan Lee has been the heartbeat of Greenville soccer for the last 7 years, man. That guy is
a former Richmond kicker.
You can put that
funny
guy,
because he was with us, and I was like,
yeah,
you would have never thought, and then he goes to Greenville and becomes like
you can put. It feels like you can put that guy just about anywhere on the pitch, and he's gonna do the job. I mean, we've had him. We've put him attacking midfielder before, and that's kind of been a running joke with us. Like, yeah, Evan Lee's an attacking midfielder. He's definitely not. Throwing him defensive midfielder.
There was a run. Yeah, it's weird. There was a run last year where it was like Evan Lee was an attacking mid and getting assists. I was like, wasn't he a center back? Like, what is this?
Evan Lee's our heartbeat, man. You can put that guy anywhere and he'll do the job. Like, he I still don't know the story. I would love to ask Rick or Evan what actually was said or what happened, but we had a game against Charlotte last year, and there was a play like right in front of the right section, and Evan yelled something back towards the bench. And then 2 minutes later, he puts the ball in the back of the net and he kind of raises his hand. He's like, yeah, I'm him. I'm that guy. And does like a solo celebration after he scored. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I wish I knew what was said, but I also kind of love that I don't. So
you leave it up to me.
So just
take that's one of those lower moments, man.
It's great.
Yeah.
Speaking of this is fun. So speaking of Evan Lee being a Richmond kicker, I wish I had bought it, but I kind of waited too long. I did find an Evan Lee Richmond Kickers match worn jersey on eBay about a year ago, and I had it bookmarked forever, but somebody beat me to it.
So man, you got to pull the trigger on those.
I had to pull the trigger on that. I waited too long, but that is floating around out there somewhere. So
yeah, man, those were. Yeah, that was 2017, I think.
Would have had to have been, yeah.
Yeah, 2017, yeah, because that was his last year, but that's before he left to go to Greenville. Yeah. Ooh, them jerseys. Those were a tight fit. And I think last but not least, is Mr. Tyler Polak. And okay, so since you're saying your stat firm, you can correct me on this. Tyler has not scored a goal for Greenville, but I think he leads the league in own goals.
I'll have to fact check that last part. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised because when you've been in the league for 7 years. I mean, you're obviously bound to have a few. But he has never scored a goal for the Triumph. We have joked about it with him from the sideline, from the stands before. The running joke in the right is that if Evan Lee scores a goal, tarps off, everybody's taking their shirts off. Or not Evan Lee, Tyler Polak, excuse me, getting sidetracked. If Tyler Polak scores a goal, everybody's taking their shirts off. That's the joke. We're hoping to get up 4-0 in a game or something and then win a pin and have him take one. Because that seems to be how it's going.
Go and throw Tyler a pin, just
haven't thrown him a pin yet.
Wow.
Well, we got to remember though, like when Harks was the coach, we won every game 1-0. So
that's true.
Didn't really have any breathing room. But
those Harks teams, man, were good, but annoyingly
frustrating. I mean, it was
most defensive team in the league.
Frustrating for us to watch too. I remember we lost to Tormenta in the playoffs in 2022 in the semifinal. And I asked Andrew from the Riot after the match, and I was like, hey, I'm kind of new here, but do we always do this thing where we don't put the ball in the back of the net? And he's like, yes, that is our thing. That's what we do. Yeah, so it's nice that we've evolved a little bit from that. I'm hoping that maybe wingback Tyler Polak will have his moment at some point this year, but we'll see.
It'd be special. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be. It's like Evans had his moments and Brandon's had his moments and Tyler's had his moments too, but it'd be really nice to get one with just as much of a running joke as it's become. He's sort of our, if you know about Everton, he's kind of our Tony Hibbert. Like so. Tony Hibbert scored a free kick and a testimonial in the Evertonian storm of the pitch. So
well, hopefully. Do you think all three of these guys make it to the new stadium? We'll talk about the new stadium after this, but do you think all three of them are kind of holding out till the new stadium? Was like, I've been here this long, I got to see the stadium.
I think it's a possibility that they are.
Okay.
They've all been such a part of the community and such part of the branding and the club for so long that with the stadium being as close as it is, I mean, why not? You only got to make it. Only got to make it one more year, and it's not like they're terribly old anyway. Maybe old for League One standards, but been around for a while. But it's not like they're terribly old.
So. You don't replace 3 guys like that,
right?
Like that.
Right.
That's gonna be. I know you guys are gonna have a sad day when those 3 announcements comes. But talking about the stadium, new players, like you said, a year away from it. How excited is the community to get this? Because this is something that has been in the works for a while, and it always felt like Greenville was very deserving of being the next club to have that soccer specific stadium in the USL ecospace.
And it's really exciting, man. They've picked a good location for it. They've obviously promoted the heck out of it. We had Ronaldinho there for the groundbreaking. I mean, I came on board in 2022, and at the time there was really a push with like city council to try to get a proposal off the ground, and it got kind of shot down, and some election stuff happened, and just we've been at Furman, I think, longer than anybody anticipated, anybody wanted to be. So the fact that there's shovels in the ground now and it's actually going to become a reality it's exciting because I've been around for 4 years, and there's the other folks who have been around even longer than me, and we've put a lot of heart and soul and effort into this as fans. So the fact that we're being rewarded a little bit now, we have a place to call home. Finally,
you see where them season ticket money is going to now.
Exactly, yeah. So
how close is the stadium to where you guys play it now? Because you mentioned like you guys play at Furman. How far is the stadium from there?
So Furman is in northern Greenville County, kind of in the Travelers Rest area. The new stadium is in Malden, a little bit closer, not close to downtown, but a little bit more in the direction of downtown than Furman is. Furman is kind of out in the woods a little bit from Greenville.
It's a little drive
location, yeah. So I drive about 40 minutes to home matches. I'm cutting that down to about 30 driving to the new stadium. So
all right.
A little bit better. Yeah. A little bit more central. So.
So I'm not going to lie. When y'all first announced that Ronaldinho was an investor in y'all club, I was just like, that man does not know what Greenville is. Like, you could not, at that time, you could not tell me that if I put a map.
That was a joke with us too. You couldn't tell it. You couldn't tell us either. Yeah. Like,
that was like, someone told that man, oh, it's close to Atlanta. And he heard Atlanta. It was like, I'm in.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to hear nothing else. That's what I thought. But how cool was it that day to see Ronaldinho like at your stadium breaking and like, you got this world-renowned Ballon d'Or winner, at your groundbreaking. How cool was that?
Yeah, that was absolutely nuts. The crowd for the Griff Stadium groundbreaking was insane. I mean, I got there 2 hours before there were people crowded around, so I couldn't even really get that. I personally couldn't even get that close, but I was able to get a spot kind of around the side of the van that he came in, and I looked 10 feet ahead, and Ronaldinho is one of the greatest players of all time is sitting like directly across from me. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And then he walked past the riot section on his way out when he was at the stadium, for the match that night. It's wild that somebody with that amount of attention is that famous, is connected to something so local. Like, even if he's not really that involved with it, even if he's just a face, even if he's just a name, like the fact that there's pictures of Ronaldinho holding a Triumph jersey is just one of the most insane things I've ever seen. I remember the day that got announced, and I sent it to my buddy Brandon, and I'm like, dude, this is a real picture. This is real.
It was just, when the club announced it, it was like, there's no way this man knows where. Yeah. And to see him there, man, I had to believe it had to be. How many people came up to y'all, or how many people asked, like, who is that? Like, or did everyone kind of already know who Ronaldinho was?
A lot of the crowd there that night was very much like focused on Ronaldinho. Like, he walked past the riot section on his way kind of out, and there was like a huge group of kids that like ran after him. Like, it was the most insane things I've ever seen. Like, it really, like, it's like everybody found out this guy was going to be here, and then all these people were like, oh, I'm going to go see Ronaldinho. Like, it's crazy that somebody can be that famous that you just say that you're going to be in one location and like thousands of people show up just to get a glimpse of you. It's genuinely one of the most insane things I've ever seen, right next to the day it got announced, because there was like nothing that leaked about that. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm scrolling on Twitter at my lunch break, and there's Ronaldinho holding a Triumph jersey. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. That sweater you had on, I hope the club sell that, because that's a nice sweater.
It is nice. From what I was told that we actually sold out in the club store the day that he wore that sweater. I was told we actually sold out in the club store because a bunch of people came in looking for it.
Oh yeah, you got to re-up on those real quick.
100%. Absolutely. It's iconic now.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad one. So I'm gonna ask you this, man. I'm gonna put you on the hot seat for a second.
Okay.
Something's in my eye. Give me your Mount Rushmore of Greenville players.
Ooh.
Put you on the hot seat. I want to hear it.
This is gonna seem like such low hanging fruit. I would need more time to really think about it, but Lion McKinnon, Evan Lee, Tyler Polak, Brandon Fricke.
Okay, that's not a bad one. So no Dallas J.
See, I'm gonna have a different opinion than people who were around before 2022 because I didn't get to see Dallas J play.
Okay,
I've heard all about him and how good he was. I didn't get to see him.
Fair enough.
So he's left off my Mount Rushmore for that reason, but I'm certainly willing to hear the argument for people who were around for the first couple of years because the team had some lofty expectations those first 2 years and had some really good teams. So
okay, fair enough. Do you have a favorite Greenville jersey?
Oh, I have a bunch of match worn, so it's kind of tough. This one's not bad. This is Nico Brown's match worn from 2022, which I hate to bring this up. I'm sure it's a bad memory for you, but like when Nico scored against Richmond, late in the season, it was the game that sent the Triumph to the top of the table. We scored that late winner. That's one of my favorite Triumph memories. That was Star Wars night. It was such a fun atmosphere, such a fun game to be a part of. Two really good teams that year. And when I saw Nico's match worn on sale from that season, I'm like, I have to have it. So.
Yeah, Nico is one of the players on my list.
Yeah. Nico's
he look, if he brought y'all good memories, I'm all for it.
Nico's a good dude too, man. He's one of the best. I hate that he left us, but he's a good dude. I can't help it. Keep rooting for him.
Yeah, I feel you. So who is one player? I mean, just bring it back into talking about the team. So like the team sits in sixth place, a couple of wins, unfortunately out of the cup, but you guys have the Jägermeister game coming up against a good rival. You also saw Georgia Tormenta. Who's one player that people need to watch out for in the next few weeks?
Ooh, that's a good one. Zane Bubb has been one that's impressed a lot of us so far. You know, big center back coming down from USL Championship. I believe he was with Tampa previously. Maybe the defenses maybe struggled a little bit more in recent weeks. We're still trying to clean some things up. So looking for Zane to make an impact. He's impressed us so far. Chopper Herrera is another one. He's kind of been the heartbeat of the team a little bit the last couple of years. You know, as a defensive midfielder, like you can tell, you know, like when Chop is in the team and when Chop is out, you can definitely tell a difference in the way the team plays and the way the team functions. And you know, getting on the road for the first time, I think those two guys and kind of ironing out the defense a little bit is going to be key because there's lots of talent in the squad as far as like goal scoring goes, and I don't have any doubt that, like I've mentioned a couple of times, that the chemistry is going to come along with goal scoring. So once we can get the defense ironed out, the chemistry will catch up, and we'll kind of figure out what this team is.
Yeah. Talking about Jägermeister, how do you think this team will perform in this version of the cup? Because you guys are, I would say, in a fun group. It's
a fun group.
What are Greenville's expectations?
That's a tough group. It's not an easy draw at all, and you have to refresh me on the rules a little bit. I think what is it? Top team in each group that advanced, or top?
Top team in each group advanced, and I think the top, is 4. Yeah, I think it's the top second place, top 4th place, second place team. That's weird. Advances on goals scored. I think it is. It's not points. That's what I always have to remember.
It's really difficult for me to see us winning that group. Like I'm going to try not to be a homer. Like when you've got a group with a really, really good Charleston team out of USL Championship, you know, one of the better teams the last few years, and Tampa Bay, obviously, and you know, Naples is off. They're in the group and they're off to a flying start. It's really difficult to see us winning that group, but if we could put in some consistent performances, we've got some fun away days. I don't see any reason why we can't at least be competitive in it. And you know, cup competitions can be weird. Maybe we look up with a couple matches to go and we're in position to do something.
Yeah. And I hate the fact that we're bringing them so late. You also have a very great women's team down there. Greenville Liberty.
Yes.
Speak about them. How special is that team? You guys been very competitive. I haven't seen the records, but you guys been very competitive in the W League down there, right?
Yeah, the Liberty have been great, and the Liberty are a little bit more special for me personally because the season that I came along in 2022 was the first year of the Liberty.
Okay.
So I've been to 19 of the 20 Liberty home games so far. I've only missed one. And it helps because the program has been so good, and they've really scouted the area well. They brought in some great local players and some great players nationally, and the Liberty have had some success, with some professional players. And Caroline Conti just scored her first professional goal over the weekend, and Hal Hirschfeld's been in the women's national team picture and got the chance to go to Paris for the Olympics. I think the Liberty have been more successful than just about anybody thought they'd be, and been able to feed off some of the local talent and grab some national talent. It's been, and I would imagine that folks who have watched the Triumph for since season one have felt the same way. But having been a part of the Liberty since the very, very beginning is something real special.
So I feel like we could actually have a very good conversation about this because up here in Richmond, as you know, we have the Richmond Kickers and then we have the Richmond Ivy. But as there are fans that support both, there's also like these sub-circles of people who only go to one. Like they only go to Kickers game, they only go to Ivy games. You guys down there have the Triumph, then you have the Liberty. Is it the same kind of dynamic there where you have people that support both, or like a great majority that support both, but then you have subsets that only go to Triumph games or only go to Liberty games?
Our Liberty crowds do tend to be on the smaller side, especially the last couple of years of the move to Furman. The first year of the Liberty was so successful that there were times during that first summer with the Liberty that we were rivaling Triumph size crowds a couple of times. The team didn't lose. I think it was like undefeated in the first like 8 or 9 games in club history, and then went to the W League semifinals and made this really deep run. And the attendance has maybe taken a little bit of a hit since the move to Furman, but there's a lot of overlap between like Triumph and Liberty. Like I haven't talked to anybody personally who goes to one and doesn't go to the other. Like it generally tends to be about the same group of people at Liberty games during the week and then Triumph games on Saturday.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I figured. All right, that's what's up, man. So like this is before we wrap up, I want to ask you this question about Greenville. But like the team right now sits kind of that mid seat, 6th place. What does Greenville need to do to climb up this table? Like, what are your top 2 or 3 things Greenville needs to ensure they do to get back up to claim their spot as being one of the best 2 teams in this league?
Clean things up defensively, especially out wide. I feel like we've struggled on the wings a little bit, and then continue to work out the chemistry with the attacking players. Like I've mentioned it before, like there's no shortage of riches, with guys up top, but you put that many talented guys in a team, and it can be tough to figure out. So continue to work on that chemistry, and continue to work with the defense and kind of lock things down. And once we get everybody on the same page, I think there's enough in this squad that there's no reason we shouldn't be competing. Top 4, top 5 in the table should be comfortably in a playoff place. And we've played some tough teams so far. We've got some good results. We've had some bad results. So, consistency, get everybody on the same page, and they can figure it out.
All right. Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, man, where can everyone follow your great work at? Obviously, they can follow you on Instagram at GVL Goals, but do you get anywhere else?
I'm also on Twitter /X at GVL Goals. Instagram is more graphics and videos and that kind of thing. Twitter, X, whatever the heck you want to call it now, it's a lot more numbers and stats that you wouldn't normally think of. Like, I don't know who's the best start. And I think I tweeted one yesterday. It was the opening 5 games in each Triumph season versus the next 5 games immediately following in Triumph season. And if you're a Greenville fan, good news, because the average amount of points through the first 5 games for the Triumph is 9 points. So we're only slightly off pace from where we tend to be at this time of year. So,
I need you to make this Blue Sky account and come over here so I can.
I have certainly been mulling around a Blue Sky account for Greenville Goals because the audience is kind of split. I've kind of like half my audience is here, half my audience is there. So it's definitely on the list of things to do.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, look, man, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Always great to talk about one of the more legendary clubs in USL League One. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to plug or anything you got coming up you're working on?
You're a Richmond guy. I will be in Richmond the first week in May for that Friday afternoon, Friday evening game. So if you've got any recommendations for good spots to eat, good places to grab a beer, I'd love to hear it.
Well, yeah, man, most definitely. We have to connect. We have to have you come to a tailgate. Is it anyone else coming up, or is it just you?
It'll be me and my buddy Brandon and maybe one more. We'll have 2 or 3 of us that'll be there.
Oh, yeah, man. Definitely got to come by the tailgate. I always say it's one of the best tailgates in USL League history. It's a fun time. So, yeah, definitely come by there. But, yeah, man, we'll look forward to having you up here. Absolutely. It's a weird Friday game. We play some weird. I think we also got a Sunday game between us.
Yeah, Friday at 4 is a weird one. Me and Brandon were talking about it, and I had the assumption the entire time that it was like a 7 o'clock Friday night game, and I was like, oh, we'll get up, we'll leave.
So it actually is. The Foot Mob just got it wrong. Is that 7?
Is it at 7?
Yeah, it's at 7.
Is it 7? Because our website says 4 o'clock too.
Foot Mob says 4, but I asked them about it, and it was like, yeah, 7.
Okay, because I definitely need to figure this out because I thought it was 7 o'clock the whole time, and then I saw it was 4, and I texted Brandon. I'm like, okay, we have to leave even earlier now because it's like a 5 or 6 hour drive. It's not like terrible, but like we can manage. But
yeah, no.
I need to know exactly what time so that we can plan because it's a long way to go to get the game time wrong.
Yes. Yeah, we can also talk about travel on this podcast, but that will be like a whole nother hour, man.
Oh, yeah.
But just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day, listeners. As always, you can make sure to follow us at Walking90. That's on Instagram. That's on Blue Sky. That's on whatever else social media is Eb has set up for us. But with that being said, for Mike and himself, make sure you follow him at GVL Goals on Instagram. We will holler at you guys next week where we'll be talking about the Jägermeister and also our Chaos BCS. So we'll holler at you guys next time. Be easy and be